For weeks, I had been noticing the same pattern. Packages arriving at my apartment building, signed for by the concierge, and then nothing. Boxes of books, electronics, small gadgets, things I had painstakingly ordered online were disappearing. At first, I blamed the delivery service. Then I blamed the tenants, thinking maybe someone had mistaken my parcels for theirs. But deep down, I knew better. The subtle way the concierge always smiled when I asked about missing packages, the way the building camera sometimes had conveniently technical issues, it all pointed to someone inside. I had moved to the city 6 months ago, renting a modest apartment in a mid-rise building that seemed friendly enough. The kind of place where neighbors wave and you nod back, thinking you found some sense of urban community. But the sense of trust I had was unraveling, one missing package at a time. One evening, after a long day at work, I returned home to find yet another empty box placeholder. It was a small package, nothing extravagant, just a set of art supplies I had ordered for a project I had been working on at night. I felt a flicker of irritation turn into something sharper, colder. This wasn't just coincidence anymore. Someone was taking my things, and they were doing it with confidence, with the knowledge that I couldn't catch them. Until now, I decided it was time to be meticulous. The next day, I reviewed the security camera footage of the lobby for the past week. At first, it seemed normal. Residents coming and going, deliveries arriving, the usual city apartment bustle. Then I paused a clip on a Tuesday afternoon. There she was, a woman I had seen around occasionally in the hallway, someone who introduced herself as Lana, living on the 5th floor. She wasn't in a rush, just casual, but her hands were suspiciously busy when the courier delivered a package addressed to me. The camera clearly showed her slipping the small box under her coat as she walked back to the elevator. I felt a mix of disbelief and anger. Not a neighbor, not someone in need, just someone who had decided my things were hers. I knew confrontation wasn't enough. Lana was clever, and she had the audacity of someone who thought she could get away with it. I needed proof, a way to catch her in the act where denial wouldn't be possible. I also wanted a little poetic justice, something that would leave her shocked and embarrassed without risking legal entanglements that could backfire on me. The plan came together over the next few days. I ordered a package just big enough for a surprise, something that could conceal a tracking device and a bit of harmless glitter. The glitter wasn't just for show. It was the symbolism of exposure, a mess she couldn't easily hide from. The tracking device would allow me to follow her movements precisely. When the package finally arrived, I placed it carefully in the lobby, making sure the concierge couldn't interfere. I waited in my apartment with the camera feed up on my laptop, watching every movement. Lana arrived at precisely 3:30 in the afternoon, dressed casually, as if her daily errands were innocent and routine. She glanced around, a small smirk playing on her lips, and reached for the package. Her fingers trembled slightly as she lifted it under her coat. I felt a small thrill. This was it. I followed the tracking signal as she carried the package to her apartment. It was a precise, clear trail, down the elevator, along the 5th floor corridor, into apartment 5B. I knew exactly where she was, but I didn't want to just know. I wanted her to know she had been caught. The next day, I set the stage. I contacted the building manager under the guise of a tenant concerned about package thefts. I asked if we could review camera footage for research purposes. The manager agreed, curious and eager to be helpful. I prepared a laptop in the lobby, set up so that any resident entering would see the footage from the previous day. Lana came down around noon, carrying groceries, humming to herself. She paused when she saw the laptop, curious about what I was doing there. I pretended to be checking the delivery camera feed, clicking play as if it was a routine check. Then I paused the video, right at the moment she slipped my package under her coat. The lobby, normally bustling with casual chatter, seemed to fall silent. Her eyes widened. She froze. What is this?" she stammered. I smiled sweetly, tilting my head as if she were a child caught misbehaving. "Oh, Lana, just some footage I was reviewing. Looks like someone's been borrowing packages that don't belong to them." I kept my tone light, almost joking, but my gaze was sharp. I didn't need to say more. The glitter from the special package, which I had instructed the courier to sprinkle lightly before sealing, was visible on the video as a shimmering dust cloud the moment she opened it in her apartment. It was subtle but unmistakable, a sparkling signature of her actions. The tracking device had confirmed every movement. Lana's face turned pale. I didn't think anyone would notice," she whispered, her voice shaking. The audacity that had carried her for weeks crumbled in an instant. I leaned slightly closer. "Notice? Oh, I noticed. I also wanted you to see how obvious it looks when you try to play clever dames." The building manager, standing beside me now, gave her a sharp look. "Lana, I think you need to explain this to the office. We have your movements on record." The humiliation hit her like a wall. She tried to form words, to excuse herself, but the glitter, the footage, and the undeniable proof left her stranded. I leaned slightly closer. "Notice? Oh, I noticed. I also wanted you to see how obvious it looks when you try to play clever games." The building manager, standing beside me now, gave her a sharp look. "Lana, I think you need to explain this to the office. We have your movements on record." The humiliation hit her like a wall. She tried to form words, to excuse herself, but the glitter, the footage, and the undeniable proof left her stranded. Residents passing by noticed the commotion. Whispers started circulating, and the once confident thief suddenly became the center of uncomfortable attention. I didn't call the police. I didn't have to. The embarrassment alone was punishment enough. And in a building where reputation mattered more than legal action, it was decisive. She retreated to her apartment, slamming the door behind her, and for the first time, I felt a satisfying calm. Over the next weeks, deliveries arrived without incident. No more missing boxes, no more suspicious glances in the hallway. Lana kept her distance, clearly aware that her actions had been seen and documented. I even started adding small, harmless tracking devices to packages I expected she might attempt to take, not out of spite, but as a playful reminder that the world isn't as easy to deceive as she had imagined. For myself, it was a lesson in patience, observation, and strategy. I realized that confrontation wasn't always about immediate reaction. Sometimes, quiet planning, the gathering of proof, and a touch of creativity led to results far more satisfying than anger ever could. I walked through the building one evening, carrying a package of my own, and I smiled at the concierge, who winked knowingly. The package was mine, untouched, and the thief who had underestimated me had learned her lesson. From that day on, whenever a new resident moved in or a delivery arrived, I shared the story, subtly, as if it were a parable. Sometimes the smallest, quietest actions, a camera, a bit of glitter, careful planning, could protect what was yours and expose those who thought they were clever. And it worked. No more stolen packages, no more anxiety, and a little glittery justice that reminded everyone, including Lana, that even minor deceit carries consequences. I learned that victory doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it sparkles quietly on camera.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.